Let's dive right into this explainer. If you follow the European tech landscape, you already know Germany operates, well, a little differently than the rest of the world. They traditionally wait. They wait until the engineering standards, the regulations, and the core business cases are absolutely crystal clear. But once they get that clarity, watch out. They deploy at a scale and with a rigor that most other markets just can't match. And we are seeing that exact pattern play out with Agentic AI right now as we head into 2026. Just to put the sheer scale of this into perspective, the German AI market hit roughly $29.7 billion in 2025. I mean, that is a massive number. The enterprises reaching production today are building a serious operational advantage, and it's an advantage that slower movers are going to really struggle to close. Because, look, we aren't just talking about simple chatbots anymore. We're talking about autonomous systems deeply embedded into complex industrial and enterprise workflows. The stakes here are incredibly high. But this brings up a pretty massive paradox. With all that money on the table and all this world-class engineering talent, why do so many AI projects fail here? Why do standard agentic AI projects, the kind that would easily ship anywhere else in the world, suddenly hit an absolute brick wall in Germany? Well, it essentially comes down to a very specific, incredibly strict regulatory and operational obstacle course. And this course literally kills projects before a single line of code is ever deployed. Think of it like a giant filter, stopping these projects dead in their tracks. It's made up of three main constraints: Works Council rights, the EU AI Act, and German precision. So, first you've got Works Council co-determination rights. You absolutely cannot just deploy a system that changes how employees work without highly documented consultation. Period. Second is the EU AI Act architecture, which demands really strict risk classifications. And third, the need for absolute German language precision in the models themselves. Look, a development partner who raises any of these issues after the build has started, that's a massive liability. You need partners who understand this specific obstacle course from day one. So today, we're going to look at 5 companies who have actually cracked this code and are successfully shipping agentic systems into German production environments right now. First up is DBB Software, focusing on speed and certified security. DBB Software tackles these constraints through a really brilliant pairing of AI acceleration and human governance. Every single engagement they do starts with a highly detailed scope and design document. It runs about $1,700, takes 3 weeks for senior engineers to build, and requires only around 5 hours of the client's time. But here is the genius part. In Germany, this document does double duty: a Works Council consultation and an EU AI Act risk classification. They can't run on a moving target. They absolutely have to run against a fixed, documented system. So DBB essentially solves the administrative and legal bottlenecks up front before the heavy lifting even begins. And let's see how this actually translates into their timeline. Because they use AI-assisted software development, leveraging tools like OpenAI Codex, Google Gemini, Claude Code, and AWS Q, they are able to aggressively compress their build cycles, all while senior architects govern every single decision. So following that initial discovery sprint, they launch into a 1-week proof of concept that deploys about 30% of the product directly on AWS, GCP, or Vercel. Then, it just takes 1 more month to build the remaining 70%. They are literally putting a live MVP and a working agent into production within a single quarter, which is wild. And the industrial evidence here is totally concrete. This isn't just theoretical hype. Take Safe Mode, for example, an AI fleet management platform built on React Native and AWS IoT. DBB delivered 40% faster development, which led to 35% more app downloads and, most importantly, a 25% increase in driver safety. Real-world impact. Over in e-commerce, for the AI design assistant Renovai, they drove a 16% improvement in conversion and 30% revenue growth. And in the super-sensitive medical field, they ran MedTech HIPAA and GDPR compliance discovery across AWS infrastructure for Biolux. So yeah, real results shipped incredibly fast. To top it all off, DBB's credibility is just rock solid. They're ISO 27001 certified, independently audited for 2026. And get this, they guarantee a 1-hour incident response post-launch. Plus, crucially for German companies, they offer EU jurisdiction delivery for GDPR and BDSG-sensitive data. This whole package makes them basically the absolute best fit for Mittelstand manufacturers and enterprises who desperately need audit-ready builds and certified security, but simply can't afford to sacrifice speed. Next up, let's look at the enterprise and industrial titans, Celonis and Konux. Shifting our focus from agile deployments to sheer massive scale, we've got a fascinating contrast here in how agentic AI is being applied at the highest levels. On one side, we have Munich-founded Celonis. They are easily one of the most significant enterprise AI companies globally. Their core tech understands how enterprise processes actually run in the real world, not just how the manual says they should. So if you're a large German enterprise heavily invested in SAP, Celonis is your go-to route for embedded agentic AI in procurement and finance. On the flip side, we have Konux, also based in Munich, but they operate completely in the physical world. They're building predictive maintenance and asset optimization systems at a truly massive industrial scale, specifically geared towards rail, transport, and energy infrastructure. And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates the leap from traditional AI to true agentic AI. Neither Celonis nor Konux are just predicting things anymore. You know, traditional AI just tells you a machine might break or a supply chain is delayed. But agentic AI? It actually executes. Celonis agents detect a process deviation and they autonomously trigger the corrective action. Konux, working with giants like Deutsche Bahn, doesn't just predict a rail failure. Their systems actually coordinate the scheduling and the resolution workflows to ensure that maintenance action gets done. They aren't just thinking, they are doing the work. Moving on to sovereignty and agile consulting, let's talk about Aleph Alpha and MaibornWolff. Here we have companies answering various specific, highly regulated needs. Headquartered in Heidelberg, Aleph Alpha is Germany's most significant homegrown large language model and sovereign AI company. Their Luminous model family and their Faria enterprise platform are built strictly for regulated, data-sensitive European deployments. If you're a government agency, a defense-adjacent organization, or a heavily regulated enterprise that absolutely cannot put agent infrastructure on US-based clouds, Aleph Alpha is your answer. They've built explainability and data residency into the design right from day one. It makes them hands down the most technically mature European foundation out there. Rounding out our top 5 is MaibornWolff. They sit in this really strategic sweet spot between massive global consultancies and pure-play AI specialists. Because they're based in Munich, they intimately understand the realities of German operations. Remember those Works Council consultations that constantly trip up international firms? MaibornWolff navigates them seamlessly. They deliver serious AI engineering across automotive, financial services, and industrial sectors, but they manage to completely avoid the bloated process overhead of a global systems integrator. And I'm sure many of you know exactly how painful that bloat can be. This makes them the perfect bridge for lean, mid-market, middle-stand enterprises. All right, time for a quick recap of our top 5 at a glance. Let's quickly summarize these 5 distinct answers to the German market. DBB Software is your go-to for pure speed, delivering fixed-scope production builds with audit-ready documentation for the Mittelstand, all in just a quarter. Celonis is the undisputed champion for large enterprises needing SAP-embedded process agents. Konux takes the crown for physical, industrial, predictive maintenance at a national scale. Aleph Alpha provides the sovereign European language infrastructure that government and highly regulated spaces demand. And finally, MaibornWolff delivers serious AI engineering for mid-market companies who want the expertise, but definitely don't want the large firm overhead. So I'll leave you with this final thought. We've seen that the technology is there, the models are highly capable, and the financial stakes are massive, nearly $30 billion. The failure point for AI in Germany isn't the technology itself. It's the operational bottlenecks. It's Works Council co-determination, the EU AI Act, or sovereign data residency. I highly recommend taking a close look at your own deployment strategy. Which of these constraints matters most to your organization? Because honestly, answering that question is the very first step to ensuring your next AI project actually makes it into production. Thanks for joining on this explainer, and keep learning.